we start? I think that's it. Is it? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so welcome to our Study Abroad and Internship Programme webinar today. Thanks very much for joining us, for taking the time to be with us here today. I'm Eduardo Lees, I'm the Global Opportunities Manager here at Goldsmiths, and I'm really excited to be sharing this information about our programme, but also this new opportunity within our programme that we're working with Arcadia College of Global Studies on to offer an internship as part of our study abroad programme. So over the next about kind of half an hour or so, we're going to introduce Goldsmiths to you, a little bit more information about our location, our community and our study abroad programme, and then we'll go into more detail around our relationship with Arcadia and the internship programme, and kind of the details around what opportunities that will create for students. Then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the support and how to apply, and there's a chance for questions at the end as well. If you do have questions while we go along, then feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll either answer them as we go along, or we'll maybe wait for towards the end and answer them all in one go, depending on the kind of question. Just brief introductions from us all. So I mentioned already, I'm Eduardo, I'm the Global Opportunities Manager, so I oversee the study abroad programme here at Goldsmiths, as well as opportunities for our students to study abroad. I'll hand over to Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm the Global Opportunities Coordinator, so I look after all of our incoming students. I'm the main point of contact for everything sort of admin-wise, as well as for pastoral support. So I'll hand over to Joe now.
Hi, I'm Joe Dwyer, and I'm the Assistant Director for the Internship Program at Arcadia University's London Centre, and I'm really the kind of main person to contact with regard to the delivery of the London internship module, and particularly around the internship placements. And of course, we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but I'll hand you over to my colleague, James.
Thanks, Joe. Hi everyone, I'm James Ballantyne, the University Relationships Manager for England and Wales. So predominantly I look after the partnerships that we have with our partner universities in England and Wales, so across the two countries. Before we get started, I've been part of the team setting up this programme, and as I'm sure others will agree, we're really excited to get this off the ground and get this set up. It's been a fair few meetings that we've been through to get this set up. So yeah, we're really pleased to launch this and share it with you today. To give you a little bit of background about Arcadia as well, if you're not aware, Arcadia University is a liberal arts college in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and Joe and I are part of the College of Global Studies, and that is a college set up to basically send students abroad all around the world. So every semester we send hundreds of students all around the world, from Granada in Spain, Dublin, Edinburgh, and as far away normally Melbourne and Sydney and major cities in Australia, and also over to New Zealand as well. I say normally, it's obviously hit by COVID at the moment, but we'd normally send them all around the world. So we also obviously work with Goldsmiths as well, and have done for many years, and we've got a strong relationship with them, and it's the thing that's shown in this new programme we have to offer you today. So looking forward to telling you all about it. I'll hand back over to Ed.
Thanks very much, James. And yeah, we are really excited about this partnership. We've been working with Arcadia for a good number of years to support students to study in London, and it's been a complete pleasure working together to put this new offer together. And I think it's an exciting opportunity for students to be able to gain study and work experience here in London. So I hope the following presentation is useful and of interest. Just to give you a bit of an introduction to Goldsmiths, so we are part of the University of London. We're made up of 20 academic departments, really in the kind of similar vein to maybe an American liberal arts university in social sciences, creative subjects, humanities, psychology, business, education, social work. We are a creative and interdisciplinary institution, lots and lots of different kind of interlinking subjects and modules. Yeah, you can see our whole module catalogue on our website, but we have a huge range of unique modules on offer for study abroad students. And we're an open, diverse and welcome community, which I'm going to talk about in a little more detail. And also something to give you an insight into the kind of institution we are. An exciting development of recent years is our Green New Deal, which is looking to increase our sustainability as an institution and to go carbon neutral by 2025. So yeah, lots of exciting things and projects going on at Goldsmiths. In terms of our location, we're based in London, which is a fantastic city. Yeah, global city, obviously famous for its cultural life and diversity. Lots for students to get involved in, whether it's cultural activities like going to museums and art galleries, or kind of going to local restaurants and cafes and bars. We're based in southeast London in New Cross, which is really an area of London where people live. So it's a chance for students to kind of feel like a real Londoner and get to know what London life is like. In some fantastic local areas as well, historic Greenwich, which is on most people's tourist maps of London, but also Peckham and Brockwell, Brockley, which are kind of more again local areas where people live and lots to explore as well. We are a single site campus, which is quite unusual in London. You can see from the picture there, kind of on the top right, we're kind of clustered around the college green. And yeah, it gives a kind of sense of community to our campus. So green spaces, there's social spaces, we have cafes, we have a contemporary art gallery which has exciting international arts kind of exhibitions on a regular basis, and a students' union which provides lots of clubs and societies for students to meet other fellow students as well, and a 24-hour library which provides academic support and again study space as well. Another picture of our campus, we call it our cozy campus there, which again gives that idea of community and bumping into friends and faculty as you walk around. In terms of our community, we have about 10 to 11,000 students at Goldsmiths. This gives you a bit of a breakdown of the kind of different identities we have on campus. So about 66% identify as female, 48% identify as Black, Asian, minority, ethnic. We have 20% of our students are international. So students from kind of 135 different countries on our campus, the largest cohorts being the US, China and South Korea outside of the UK and the EU. 21% of our students have a declared disability, and we have a great disability office who are able to put in place adjustments for students if they do need that to support their academic or welfare needs. 14% have disclosed that they identify as LGBTQ+, and there is a very accepting atmosphere on campus of different identities in that area. And 22% of our undergraduate student body are mature students, so students who are over 21 years old on entry, and quite a lot of local students as well, so you get a real feel for London. Lots of local London students as well. I mentioned the Students' Union already. They provide lots of clubs and societies. There's a space for students to meet, and students on the study abroad program can get involved in that, and it's a good way to meet local students as well. On the academic side of things, our study abroad program allows students to create a study abroad program that suits them. So I mentioned already that we have a large number of modules. Students can come and mix and match modules from across different departments. So they might want to combine a computing module with a marketing module, or psychology with media and communications. We like to challenge the norm. There's quite a lot of the modules might focus on social justice or identity. You could study through a feminist, queer, decolonial lenses. In terms of the flexibility, art and design are exceptions. So for our fine art study abroad program and our design study abroad program, students must apply separately for these subjects and can only study within those departments because they're much more cohort-based approach to teaching. Yeah, on the application form, there's an option to apply for that separately. And modules are confirmed in advance of arrival. And the fantastic news why we're on this webinar today is that from spring 2022, students can also add an internship to their study abroad program, and that internship will be London-based and delivered by our kind of in partnership with Arcadia. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the structure of that program, what that looks like. So at the moment, the program will be offered in the spring summer term only. So that runs from January to June. Now, students will take 3 Goldsmiths modules, which are 15 CATs or credits each. So that 15 CATs is generally similar to 4 US credits. And the teaching for that will take place between January and April. So that students will be taking 3 modules in that kind of spring term period. The internship will then take the place of the 4th module. So that internship is worth 4 credits, and that will run from April to May, alongside the assessment period for Goldsmiths as well, which runs from May until June. Of course, if students want to just do a study abroad, study only option, then that's still an option. So we have autumn term only, spring summer term only, or full academic year. In those cases, students would do 4 Goldsmiths modules per term, which are 15 CATs or credits each. And there's also opportunities for pre-sessional English courses from June as well. I think that's me. So I'm going to hand over to Joe to give you a little bit more information on the internship program.
Excellent. Thank you, Ed, and good afternoon, and hello. I'm going to say a few words here about the Goldsmiths Arcadia internship module, what that entails, how it works, and what kind of internships one can do on the program, etc. So through our partnership with Goldsmiths, Arcadia University's London Center will deliver the internship course module, which is a seminar style course provides an internship placement, along with the academic structure to really maximize learning from the internship experience and connect it to both the students' course of study and career aspirations. So again, as mentioned, the module will include our providing an internship placement that will take place for 7 weeks, and that's 3 to 4 days per week. The academic particulars of the course consist of 6 class sessions meeting once per week, and those will run concurrently with the internship placement. And you can see here, kind of a quick look at the assessment criteria for the course, and that includes regular reflection on the internship experience with peers in your class, creating a digital resume portfolio, a final presentation, and a final paper as well. And the dates for the spring 2022 internship module will run from the week of the 4th of April through the 20th of May 2022. So we can move on to the next slide. Thanks. Right. I'll move on to talk a little bit about the main fields in which we typically find internship placements. And the list you'll see here is pretty much taken directly from our internship placement guide, which can be found on the Goldsmiths Study Abroad internship webpage. And it's really an essential starting point for anyone thinking about taking the module, as it discusses in quite a bit of detail what kinds of placements we can look at for you, as well as how the internship placement process works. And it also has a good FAQ section that talks a lot about life in the internship, etc. So I definitely recommend having a look there if you are interested in the program. And so you can kind of see the main fields here, and I'll just quickly add that these are the fields that we're most typically asked about, and the ones I think that we find placements in the most. We're not necessarily limited to these fields and what you'll find in the placement guide. So if you are interested in something that you're not seeing here, we'd ask you to get in touch with us, or me, basically, to discuss further, and we can look at what interests you. It does happen sometimes. Recently we had a student who was interested in photojournalism. There's not a lot about photojournalism in our guide, but we got a couple of backup options from that student, but we were able to find something in that for them. So, another one was interior design. You won't see anything on that here, but we were able to find something in that too. Again, those kinds of things they're just not things that students ask for very much, so we don't have a section on them, but you can see sort of the main kind of fields that we do look at. I'll come back again in a minute and talk about the actual placement process, but we do ask applicants to give us a pretty good degree of flexibility, though, in the placement process, and we actually ask them to consider 3 fields of interest for us to look at. So from the kind of list that you see here. But again, you can see these are the main areas. We're looking at things like accounting. Typically, that could be something like a firm-based placement, or it could be in-house company finance in any number of different types of organizations. Advertising tends to be agency-based, tends to be account handling role rather than creative type roles, which can be very difficult to source. Arts, we do find placements in galleries, typically smaller commercial galleries or museums. We also find things in theater as well. So usually, again, smaller theaters or smaller galleries, but there are a lot of opportunities in London for good placements in that area. Lots and lots of business type of placements. We do find some things in financial services, lots of entrepreneurship. We've really seen a lot of those kinds of placements, those kinds of organizations crop up in the last few years, very entrepreneurial type companies, startup type companies. So there's a lot there. Film and TV, we do place with a number of smaller production companies around London that produce films and television programming for the larger networks. Hospitality, hotels, journalism, including some broadcast journalism placements as well. Law is an interesting field. We do find some placements in criminal and civil law, which typically are firm-based placements, and there can be a lot of good variety to those placements. You might find one day you're clerking in court, another day you're doing research back in the office, and another day you might be meeting clients. So it's an interesting field. Marketing, we see marketing in so many different types of organizations, and you'll even see it in other fields like, as I say, entrepreneurship, business. Even in galleries, we find sometimes students doing, social media marketing as part of their tasks and things. Non-government organizations, lots of socially focused, charitable type organizations, as well as more public policy type organizations, economics, things like that. Parliament and politics, we do place a number of students every term with members of parliament and other, politically focused organizations focused on lobbying and information services focused on Westminster and Parliament. Psychology, we do find probably mostly research style placements in psychology, but we do find some things there. And also public relations is also an agency, typically an agency-based placement, but we do find some good placements in that area as well. So a lot of different things here. Again, I've just really touched on kind of each of these really briefly, but again, the internship placement guide is really the place to start if you are interested in the program. And we will talk in more detail in the guide about these fields and what kinds of possible placements we can find there. But there are some good things to look at there. But that's a really good place to start, as I say. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide as well. Right, I'll say a few words here about the placement process for the internship. But again, this is also discussed in our internship placement guide. It is a guide for the internship placements. All applicants are placed, of course, based on their requests and interests, and we always look at requests individually, and we don't put students in direct competition with one another for opportunities, as of course we need to, we need to place everybody. But I will add that we do require a good degree of flexibility from students, and really the understanding that while we do guarantee a placement offer, we can't guarantee any particular field or type of organization. So again, we ask students to be as flexible as reasonably possible. Now, the first step in the process is, as mentioned, to review the placement guide, and then applicants will be asked to complete some relevant questions in the application through Goldsmiths, which will ask them to indicate, like I say, 3 fields of interest from the fields mentioned in the guide, and then to tell us in a bit more detail about their interests, experience, and career goals, etc. So we're just trying to put as much of a picture as we can together for what the student is interested in, and then we'll be working from that information when looking to contact placement providers. We then also need applicants to upload or forward a copy of their CV or resume, and we do have a resume writing guide, which is a really good resource and a good place to start if you don't already have a resume guide already. So do have a look at that, or we can send that to you as well. We'll then begin the process of looking for a placement for the student several months ahead of the program start, so probably in January or so for the placements beginning in April. And we'll do that by looking at all the requests together and then brainstorming which placements to try for each applicant, and or whether we'll need to look at something new for that student. And we'll then start that process of contacting employers. It's also around that time that we'll contact each student as well to introduce ourselves and to let them know that we're working on the placement search for them. And they'll then have someone to contact if they have further questions or just want an update, etc. Then once we find the provisional placement, we'll then forward the details of that to the student, and we'll then look to arrange an interview with the placement provider. And that's mainly a confirmatory interview, as again, the placement will have been arranged exclusively for that student. So it's mainly an opportunity for both parties just to make sure it's the right fit. In the vast majority of cases, it does work out just fine, but if for any reason one party or the other doesn't wish to proceed, then we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll find another placement offer, arrange another interview, etc. I'll also add that, if a student, we will be in sort of discussion with the student about the placement prior to the interview, but if a student ever wants interview tips, we do have some good interview tips as well. But most of the placements, as I say, it's a fairly straightforward process. And then once the placement has been confirmed following the interview, we'll then get everything finalized and ready to go, arrange the start date, schedule, etc., ahead of the start of the placement in the internship class. And then the final point here, of course, is that we sometimes get asked about can students arrange their own internship placement? And of course, yes, they can if they wish. Sometimes students have their own contacts, and that's fine. We'll just ask for them to get in touch with us so we can verify the placement, etc. So, all right, we can move on to the last slide. Right, I'll just say a few final words about the internship support on the program. Of course, the support on the program doesn't just end with putting you in the placement. We will provide an orientation and handbook on life in the British workplace and how to get the most from the experience, etc. And these are, of course, also topics that will be regularly discussed in the internship course module during the term. But our placement staff will also be on hand throughout the term if any issues arise in the placement. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally a student might be experiencing some kind of difficulties in whether it's to do with the work itself, or it might be something more personal. Maybe they aren't getting along with a colleague in the placement, or they don't like their supervisor's style of management or something like that. It's life in the working world, really, in that sense. As one would imagine, life in the internship really is just like any other workplace. Sometimes things go smoothly, and sometimes it can be more challenging. So we are here, to speak with students and support them throughout the term. Some of the students that we place do have prior experience in things, but many don't, and that's fine. And again, like I say, that's where the support really can help, with that. So, and we do, of course, have a midterm check-in with every student that comes in the program to find out how they are getting on. We often ask students to let us know how they're doing, and we're always there for them, but sometimes we don't hear from students unless there is a problem. So we always say, get in touch with us, but because we want to speak to everybody, we do have a midterm meeting as well, so we can kind of catch up with them. So that's the internship module in a bit of a nutshell. I'll just add that I'm always happy to speak to interested potential applicants or staff, further and informally about what kinds of opportunities can be found, or talk further about what to expect in the placement, etc. Always happy to answer any questions. So feel free to reach out to me. But otherwise, thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe. Very useful overview of the internship program there. Just to finish off the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the support, the kind of wraparound support that students can then get from Goldsmiths as well. So we offer a guaranteed offer of accommodation to any student who applies before the deadline. So students can apply for, most study abroad students apply for or are placed in on-campus accommodation, very close to all the kind of lecture theatres and everything. But there are some off-campus options as well. All students are in a single room with ensuite. It is a self-catered accommodation. All of our accommodation is self-catered with a shared kitchen. There'll be about 6 to 8 students per flat. So yeah, and we do try where possible to mix up students with, there'll be other study abroad students, maybe Erasmus students, but also other kind of full-time students at Goldsmiths as well. Again, another opportunity to kind of get that living in a UK kind of university setting as well. In terms of Goldsmiths student support, so in addition to the support from Arcadia, so the dedicated Arcadia internship supervisor and the Arcadia internship team, students will also be able to access the Goldsmiths student support. And we really, again, give students that kind of integrated university experience. We do try and ensure that they're treated exactly the same as all other full-time Goldsmiths students. So they have access to the same support and facilities. So we have dedicated disability and wellbeing teams I mentioned already. So if a student does need adjustments in relation to a disability, then our disability team can support with that. Wellbeing are there to support with anxieties or concerns or worries through the year. That includes counselling services as well. We have out of hours welfare support through our campus support officers who are based in the halls of accommodation, and as well as them, there's a kind of residence life team that put on activities and events within accommodation as well. On the academic side of things, we have a dedicated academic in each department who links into the study abroad students, but we also have an academic skills centre to help students adjust to our curriculum and our approach to education, and there are tutor office hours as well. If English isn't the student's first language or your first language, then we do have English language support, and we have English language modules that can be taken alongside our other modules as well. And then as a team, me, Shannon, and our other colleague Jack and the Global Opportunities team are all trained mental health first aiders. There are a number of mental health first aiders on campus as well, so we can support, again, kind of with any emergency welfare issues there might be if we're on campus. There's 24-hour security who are there if there's an emergency at kind of any time, obviously, as well as the UK emergency services as well. The Global Opportunities team provide an orientation briefing upon arrival, and students will also be integrated into our kind of welcome week for new students as well. And we also have student advisors who kind of can provide peer-to-peer support as well. So hopefully lots of support to help students to adapt to life in London. In terms of this internship opportunity as well, students will need a visa, almost certainly, obviously depending on the nationality, but almost certainly will need a visa. And we have an immigration team that can support and guide with that as well. And obviously we'll work with Arcadia on that to get all the relevant information as well. In terms of applications, so there are actually 2 routes to apply for this programme. You can apply directly via Goldsmiths, or you can apply directly via Arcadia. Both options are an online application form which requests personal details. You'll need a study abroad reference and an academic transcript. If you are applying for the internship programme, then you'll need the additional questions that Joe talked about earlier, the kind of motivation statements, internship preferences and CV. And if you're applying for art and design, there's an additional portfolio required as well. And if English is not your first language, then an English language certificate. Just in terms of the deadlines, for the internship programme, the deadline is the 15th of October. For study abroad only, it's the 15th of November. And accommodation applications open in November, so generally we'll have processed anyone's application before they close, so students should have a chance to apply for accommodation in time for the deadline. James, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the application via Arcadia, if you wanted to add any more information, please do.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, really, it's pretty simple, as you would imagine. It's pretty similar to the Goldsmiths application. But just to point out that we have a team based at the university in Philadelphia. So that team, the program advisors, are there to support the students through the process. So they will help with the application to Goldsmiths, also with the internship program, and put the students in touch with Joe, and really just have that contact with the students as they go through the process. You know, it is as easy as it can be, but there are some things that trip some students up. So they're on hand to help the students through the process. And then once the students have completed their application and are getting ready to get or to arrive to London and to Goldsmiths, then the program advisors turn to preparing the students to arrive in the UK. So they'll run modules online and help the students with their preparation in preparing to study in the UK, and also the kind of the nuts and bolts of getting ready to arrive here. Things like ordering bedding packs, so they have the bedding here, right the way through to advising them on mobile phones and money and cash whilst they're here. So, you know, every kind of little step they need to take to get off to a good start when they're here. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's the support that Arcadia offer. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, James. And yeah, just we've got the websites there that to apply through, and more information I think on the next page. All the information around the programme is on the Goldsmiths Study Abroad page. You can email studyabroad@gold.ac.uk if you want to have any questions. We've also got the Arcadia email address and website as well. I hope that's been useful and a good overview. Thanks very much for joining. I will stop the recording there, and then we can have a Q&A if anyone has any questions and wants to kind of put their microphone on. But yeah, thanks very much to the speakers. Really excited to be working with Arcadia on this and to offer this, kind of expand our study abroad programme to offer this opportunity. Thanks for taking the time to join us today, and we look forward to receiving some applications.
Thank you.